Silence speaks before words ever arrive. Calls stop. Messages fade. Doors once opened close without warning. You feel pushed aside, forgotten, replaced not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. This quiet is the most dangerous sound a human being can face. I am Shiheng Yi, and today I will reveal why this silent rejection is not an accident, not betrayal by chance, and not the end of your path. This moment is a signal. In this video, you will learn the hidden law behind rejection, why it often arrives without explanation, and how unseen forces begin to move the moment people turn away. Many believe rejection means failure. That belief keeps millions trapped in resentment, self-doubt, and fear. The truth is more precise. In ancient Shaolin wisdom and spiritual law, rejection functions as a gate, a painful one, yet necessary. Stay until the end, because I will explain how this quiet removal protects your energy, sharpens your discipline, and prepares alignment with a higher flow that cannot be accessed while comfort remains. Few speak about this phase honestly. Fewer survive it consciously. Those who understand it rise beyond approval, beyond attachment, and beyond dependence on validation. This teaching is not motivation, it is awareness. It reveals why the strongest growth begins when witnesses disappear and applause ends. By the final moments of this video, you will see rejection differently. Not as loss, but as positioning. Not as abandonment, but as selection. And once this understanding enters the mind, peace replaces confusion. Welcome to Shaolin Divine Flow, a space for inner strength, discipline, and spiritual clarity. Subscribe, walk this path with us, and continue the journey where silence becomes power. Rejection strikes deep because the mind turns it inward. The silence feels like a verdict. The distance feels like proof. Thoughts begin to whisper that something is broken, lacking, or unworthy. This reaction is natural. The human nervous system is wired to seek belonging. When connection is removed, the body responds as though survival itself is threatened. That is why rejection hurts more than failure. Failure allows effort. Rejection removes explanation. The pain feels personal because identity becomes attached to roles, places, and people. When access is taken away, the ego assumes blame. Yet this assumption is often false. Many rejections are not decisions about value, they are signs of misalignment. A space that once matched your energy can quietly become too small for your growth. When that happens, tension appears, resistance grows, and eventually, separation follows. People rarely reject with clarity. They withdraw instead. They avoid instead. Not because you are wrong, but because your presence challenges their comfort. Growth changes frequency. When frequency shifts, harmony breaks. This is not betrayal. It is nature. A tree outgrows its pot long before the roots are seen from the outside. From a distance, nothing looks wrong. Yet inside, pressure builds. The container resists expansion. The tree does not fail. The pot does. Many are pushed away at the moment they begin to rise. Confidence threatens control. Awareness threatens routine. Truth threatens systems built on silence. So rejection appears, not as an attack but as an exit. This is why the pain confuses. You feel rejected, yet nothing you did feels wrong. That contradiction exists because rejection is often not about behavior. It is about readiness. You no longer fit where you once belonged, and the environment responds before the mind understands. Stay with this awareness. The story is only beginning. Sometimes God does not intervene when people begin to pull away. Not because he is absent, but because he sees further than comfort allows. Protection does not always feel gentle. At times it arrives disguised as removal. Staying in familiar spaces can slowly limit vision. Comfort soothes, but it also softens discipline. Over time it becomes a cage that looks safe from the inside. God refuses to let your spirit shrink inside places that no longer challenge your becoming. When a door closes without warning, the mind searches for fault. Yet many closed doors are acts of mercy. God blocks paths that would delay growth, drain strength, or confuse direction. Remaining where you are tolerated but not valued weakens the soul. So movement begins, not suddenly, gradually. Conversations end, invitations stop, space appears. Before elevation, separation always arrives. This is a law seen in nature and in spirit. New levels require different weight. Old environments cannot carry what you are becoming. God removes excess before dependence forms. Detachment is the first training ground of strength. It sharpens awareness. It reduces noise. It teaches you to stand without applause. In the quiet that follows rejection, preparation begins. This phase is rarely celebrated. Nothing external confirms progress. Yet internally, foundations are being rebuilt. Discipline deepens. Motives are purified. You learn to listen without distraction, to move without validation, to trust direction without evidence. People may believe they removed you. In truth, permission was given from above. God uses human decisions to redirect divine purpose. What feels like exclusion is often alignment in motion. Space is created so clarity can enter. Silence appears so truth can speak. This season trains resilience. It strengthens resolve. It strips illusion. You are being moved, not punished. Positioned, not forgotten. The unseen work continues. The door ahead is forming. A closed door creates instant doubt. The mind rushes to interpret it as rejection from above. Yet divine guidance rarely announces itself with comfort. A door closes because the path beyond it no longer serves the mission ahead. God does not abandon through closure. He redirects through resistance. What ends abruptly often prevents deeper damage that has not yet revealed itself. Loss feels immediate. Protection feels invisible. That is why many mourn what was never meant to last. Some doors close to stop cycles that drain spirit and delay purpose. Others close to block environments that would eventually break focus, discipline, or integrity. You are spared battles you never see, removed before compromise becomes normal. Redirection reshapes perspective. When one path disappears, attention shifts, vision widens. New awareness forms. God does not lead through force. He leads through alignment. When alignment fades, friction increases. Eventually, movement becomes unavoidable. The closed door simply makes the truth undeniable. At this stage, trust replaces certainty. You step forward without full understanding. That is intentional. Faith strengthens when control dissolves. Direction becomes internal rather than external. Approval loses power. Purpose gains clarity. Then something subtle happens. A different door begins to form. Not rushed, not loud. This door does not demand performance. It recognizes readiness. It opens without struggle. No convincing required. No shrinking necessary. Entry feels calm, not desperate. The places God leads you toward feel unfamiliar at first. Growth always does. Yet there is peace beneath the uncertainty. Energy flows instead of resists. You are met, not managed. Supported, not tolerated. This shift reveals a deeper truth. Some doors close to reveal your true value. Some connections end so higher alignment can begin. What appeared as loss was repositioning. What felt like delay was refinement. The journey continues forward, quietly, purposefully, guided by hands unseen, yet always present. Elevation never begins with applause. It begins with distance. Before expansion, there is always a pulling away from what once felt familiar. Old connections fade, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Growth demands space. God removes you from environments that cannot support the weight of your next level. Staying would feel easier, but it would quietly limit what you are meant to carry. Separation feels confusing because it arrives without explanation. One day, alignment exists. The next, it dissolves. Conversations lose depth. Support weakens. Shared vision disappears. This shift is not random. It signals that your direction has changed, even before you consciously accept it. God moves you ahead of your comfort, so your future is not delayed by your past. Elevation requires clarity. Clarity requires silence. Silence requires distance. When familiar voices fall away, inner guidance becomes louder. You begin to sense what truly matters. You stop negotiating purpose for acceptance. Strength grows where approval once lived. Many mistake separation for loneliness, yet it is a sacred transition. This is where focus sharpens, where discipline becomes personal, where identity detaches from association. You learn to stand without leaning, to move without permission, to trust direction without consensus. God never elevates without first lightening the load. Some connections cannot rise with you, not because they are wrong, but because they are rooted in a version of you that no longer exists. Carrying them forward with slow momentum, so separation occurs gently or suddenly, but always precisely. In this phase, you are not being emptied, you are being refined. Distractions fall away. False responsibilities dissolve. What remains is strength, awareness, and readiness. Elevation does not respond to noise, it responds to alignment. This process feels isolating, yet it is purposeful. The ground beneath you is shifting, new footing is forming. What lies ahead requires a clearer path, and God is making room for it now. Human rejection is often driven by insecurity, fear of being outgrown, ego that resists equality, control that weakens when another rises. When people sense a shift they cannot manage, distance becomes their defense. They push not because you lack value, but because your presence exposes limits they are unwilling to face. Divine response follows a different law. God does not pull based on convenience or comfort, He pulls based on purpose. The moment human support withdraws, spiritual alignment intensifies. What appears as isolation on the surface becomes connection beneath it. Strength replaces dependence. Direction replaces confusion. Humans measure worth by usefulness to their system. God measures worth by alignment with calling. What no longer fits a human plan often fits perfectly into a divine one. Removal from one space creates entry into another. The exchange feels unequal only until the full picture appears. This is why rejection often precedes acceleration. When external validation fades, inner authority awakens. You stop waiting for permission, you move with clarity rather than consensus. God positions you where effort multiplies instead of drains. Heaven responds quietly. A conversation arrives at the right time. Insight sharpens without study. Opportunities align without force. These shifts feel subtle, yet they are precise. You are being guided, not abandoned. People may discard what challenges them. God invests in what carries truth. What humans overlook, God develops. What humans label unnecessary, God refines. This contrast reveals who governs the journey. As rejection increases, reliance changes. Faith replaces strategy. Obedience replaces anxiety. You begin to sense movement even before doors appear. Trust deepens without evidence. Direction becomes internal. This exchange is not random. It is intentional. Human rejection clears the path. Divine response fills the space. One hand releases so another can guide. What leaves your life makes room for what belongs in it. The process continues forward, steady and unseen, shaping alignment with every step. Silence arrives when the noise of approval disappears. At first it feels empty, uncomfortable, directionless. Yet this quiet is intentional. Being pushed out removes distraction. Without constant voices shaping identity, awareness sharpens. Thoughts slow. Truth surfaces. This is where clarity begins to form. In silence, motives are exposed. You see why certain choices were made, why certain attachments were held. Nothing hides when no one is watching. God uses this space to rebuild from the inside, not hurried, not pressured. Foundation first, strength before visibility. This season is private by design. Public growth without private grounding collapses under weight. So discipline is trained where no applause exists. Faith is tested where no reassurance arrives. You learn to move without confirmation, to trust without signs, to continue without recognition. Silence teaches restraint. Reaction softens, listening deepens, ego loosens its grip. You become less interested in being seen and more committed to becoming stable. This is refinement, not delay. The work here determines how you will carry what comes next. God reshapes perspective during this phase. Old definitions of success dissolve. Purpose becomes clearer than ambition. Alignment matters more than speed. You begin to value depth over noise, consistency over excitement. Many abandon this season too early. The quiet feels heavy, yet those who remain emerge grounded, focused, unshaken by opinion, prepared for visibility without attachment to praise. This hidden preparation is not inactivity, it is precision. Strength is being layered, awareness sharpened, identity clarified. What will soon appear publicly is being secured privately. Movement is happening even when nothing seems to change. Roots are extending, balance is forming. The silence that once felt isolating becomes stabilizing. The work continues unseen, shaping a version of you that can stand firmly when attention returns. Some spaces feel safe only because they are familiar, yet familiarity can quietly limit expansion. When you are pushed out, it is not because you failed to belong, it is because you grew beyond the boundaries that once held you. The environment could no longer contain the direction you were moving toward. Remaining would have required shrinking. God intervened before compromise became comfort. Outgrowing a place rarely feels triumphant. It feels uncomfortable. You sense restriction where freedom once lived. Energy drains faster. Passion dulls. Creativity tightens. These signals appear before the mind accepts change. God moves you at this stage because settling would slowly dim your fire. Many stay where they are needed but not nurtured, where effort is expected but growth is limited. God removes you before identity becomes dependent on approval. He protects potential by disrupting routine. What feels like loss is often prevention. When space can no longer support expansion, resistance increases. Conversations lose alignment. Support fades. Momentum stalls. This friction is not failure. It is feedback. You are meant to move forward, not remain contained by outdated roles. God never removes without intention. Every separation creates capacity. Capacity invites opportunity. Opportunity reveals direction. Being pushed out creates the room required for the next phase to enter. You may question timing. You may doubt readiness. Yet readiness is often formed after movement begins. Growth follows obedience. Strength follows transition. Stability follows release. This process reframes belonging. You stop seeking places that tolerate you. You move toward spaces that recognize your direction, where contribution flows naturally, where expansion is welcomed, not resisted. The push was not rejection. It was release. A release from limitation. A release from comfort that would eventually cost clarity. You were moved because staying would have kept you smaller than you were meant to become. The doors God opens are unlike any human opportunity. They do not respond to persuasion, negotiation, or force. No amount of convincing can accelerate their timing. They open quietly, perfectly, and often when you least expect it. Patience becomes your ally, not frustration. Trying to push these doors only delays the flow already in motion. Divine doors appear with precision. The right people enter at the right moment. Connections align effortlessly, as if the universe rearranged itself to accommodate your path. Nothing is missing. Nothing is rushed. Everything unfolds according to preparation, not pressure. This is why impatience often leads to frustration. Human timing cannot match divine orchestration. These doors do not require performance. They do not test worthiness by struggle alone. They respond to readiness, the work behind the scenes, the silent preparation, the private strengthening, the unseen refinement determines access. You cannot force visibility before the foundation is built. Trying to step in prematurely risks instability. God opens doors when the timing, the alignment, and the intention converge perfectly. The entrance feels natural yet miraculous. Effort no longer strains, because the path itself supports movement. People appear who were never expected. Resources show up without searching. Circumstances shift to meet you. What once required chasing now flows toward you. This is divine orchestration in motion, unmistakable when noticed, undeniable when trusted. Human understanding rarely perceives this process in real time. You may feel delayed or overlooked, yet the door has already begun forming. The quiet work behind the scenes is preparing you to step in fully without compromise or compromise of purpose. Each detail, each encounter, each pause is intentional. designed to ensure that when the door opens, you are exactly where you were meant to be. God's doors require nothing from the ego. They require everything from alignment. When one opens, it carries the full weight of potential, opportunity, and destiny, unshakable, undeniable, and unstoppable. Rejection has a way of stripping away illusions. When people push you out, the world suddenly appears more honest. Friendships once taken for granted reveal their true nature. Intentions that were hidden in flattery or convenience become visible. Being pushed out sharpens discernment because the noise of approval fades, leaving only truth. You begin to see who is real and who is temporary, who supports your rise and who fears it. Clarity emerges not in comfort, but in absence. When doors close and voices quiet, the internal connection strengthens. You hear God more clearly, not through crowds or distractions, but in stillness. Guidance arrives in subtle whispers, not in dramatic announcements. You begin to sense direction rather than demand it. Decisions are no longer made to please people, they are made to honor purpose. Rejection teaches that access does not equal alignment. Just because someone allows you into their space does not mean it is your place to grow there. Doors may open for reasons that serve others, not you. People may tolerate presence without intention, yet God aligns you where presence matters. The confusion between permission and purpose fades. You stop bending to fit spaces that cannot carry your destiny. Pain also refines priorities. What once seemed urgent now appears trivial. Relationships, opportunities, and environments are measured against purpose, not comfort. The mind becomes selective. Energy is no longer scattered chasing validation. Instead, it concentrates where growth is real, where influence multiplies, and where vision can expand freely. Through this refinement, strength solidifies. Judgment becomes tempered with wisdom. Choices are informed by insight rather than impulse. Rejection is no longer a wound to bear. It is a lens that reveals alignment, clarifies intention, and illuminates the path God is preparing. The soul emerges sharper, more focused, and more attuned. What once felt like loss now reveals direction. What once seemed like pain now shapes vision. The path forward is no longer unclear. It is defined. The moments that once cut deep now serve a higher function. Every wound carries a lesson, every disappointment a hidden direction. What hurt you was never meaningless. It was shaping you, molding resilience where fragility once lived. Pain is a teacher whose lessons are not gentle, yet their impact lasts a lifetime. Breakage is not failure, it is preparation. The experiences that fractured expectation also forged endurance. The rejection that felt personal, unfair, or humiliating was in fact the first step toward a stronger foundation. Strength emerges not in comfort, but in response to challenge. Each trial recalibrates perception, hones patience, and clarifies purpose. You are learning to stand unshaken, to move with certainty, and to recognize opportunities that would have gone unnoticed before. This is the turning point. What once seemed like endings now reveals itself as beginnings. The door that closed, the hand that withdrew, the word that cut, they are all instruments shaping the path forward. Pain dissolves into awareness. Confusion fades into clarity. Each setback carries momentum, pushing you toward alignment that could not have been accessed while comfort remained. Purpose awakens in the spaces left by loss. The energy spent lamenting rejection is redirected into vision, into growth, into preparation for what is to come. What you once desired may not have been enough. What now approaches has the capacity to expand your potential beyond what you imagined. This shift is subtle yet undeniable. The soul adjusts. The mind perceives differently. Decisions become guided by alignment rather than emotion. You stop clinging to what was convenient and begin moving toward what is essential. Pain does not define the end of your story. It scripts the turning point. Rejection becomes the catalyst. Silence becomes clarity. Separation becomes elevation. Every moment of struggle is now a stepping stone, preparing you to step fully into the destiny that was waiting beyond the storm. When they push you out, don't chase them. Don't beg. Don't explain. Stand still. Trust the quiet. Trust the timing. Because while one door closed behind you, God is opening another in front of you. Not smaller, not equal, greater. You were removed so you could rise, rejected so you could be redirected, pushed out so God could bring you in. And where God brings you, no one can push you out again. Your path is protected, your purpose is unfolding. If this message spoke to your heart, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. Remember this, the very moment you feel abandoned may be the exact moment your breakthrough begins. Stand still, trust God's timing, and step boldly into the life that was waiting for you all along.